Are your children a bit unruly? Do you wish for more peace in your parenting, or are you wondering whether your parents did a good job with you? Well, today we will be looking at Shepherding a Child's Heart by Tedd Tripp, which is all about helping parents train up their children in the ways of God so that they can become the people God intended them to be, and the home may be a happy place. Stay tuned. Good day and welcome to Books of the Wise, where we walk you through the books of sound Christian authors so that you may learn from their wisdom and grow in your faith. And today specifically, we'll be looking at Shepherding a Child's Heart, which is arguably the most influential and most helpful Christian book on the topic of parenting in the 21st century. It is scripture-based and filled with lots of practical examples on the topic of parenting. I myself have benefited from it, and I trust it will transform your parenting so that it can be the blessing that God intended it to be. And even if you are not a parent, I trust you will greatly benefit by learning what does God have to say on this very important topic. We will follow the following threefold structure. First of all, we'll look at the context of the book, where we'll meet the author and see what others have to say about the book. Then we'll look at the content of the book, getting the best insights from each chapter. And then finally, we'll offer our humble critique of the book so that you may even learn from its mistakes. And please note there are timestamps in the bottom in the description box so you can jump to any given section. Let's meet the author. Who is he? The author is Tedd Tripp. He is married for 53 years. He has 3 adult children, male and female, with 9 grandchildren. He was a pastor for 32 years and he founded the Christian school with his wife and was part of its management for 35 years. He completed his PhD at Westminster Theological Seminary and is now a world-famous traveling speaker on the topic of parenting. Let's see what others have to say about this book. Okay, first of all, this book was published in July 1995, so that shows it's not a fly-by-night. It has stood the test of time. Okay, and many faithful teachers and pastors recommend it, as seen on the back cover of the book, like Dr. David Powelson, famous in the biblical counseling circles. He said Tedd Tripp knows what he's talking about and knows who he's talking to. He knows children, he knows parents, and he knows the ways of God. This book teaches you what your goals should be and how to pursue these ends practically. It teaches you how to talk to your children and what to talk about. It will inspire you to become a different kind of parent. This is a masterful book. Also, Pastor John MacArthur says, with a plethora of material on parenting and the family, it is surprising and distressing to see how few books are genuinely biblical. Here is a refreshing exception. Tedd Tripp offers solid, trustworthy, biblical help for parents. If you are looking for the right perspective and practical help, you won't find a more excellent guide. And also Dr. Edward Wells and Elizabeth Elliot, they can't recommend this book highly enough. Okay, so that was the context of the book, just meeting the author and seeing what others have to say. Let's now dive into the content of the book, where we'll get the best insights of each of the chapter in the book so we can learn from the wisdom. And remember, there's a coupon of 10% discount that we'll offer you at the end. And we'll also give you a link to this PowerPoint presentation for free at the end. And then the last part will just offer our humble critique. But now part 2, let's get the best insights of each chapter as we consider the content of the book. First of all, let's discuss the central thesis of the book. What is the book about? The book is about this. God has given parents the responsibility to shepherd their children's hearts. Yes, there are lots of other duties that parents have to fulfill towards their children. They need to feed them. They need to, take medically care of them. This book is not about that. This book is about how a parent can shepherd their children's heart, teach them wisdom, teach them to love God from a young age. Okay, so that's what the book is about. Now let's go through the book chapter by chapter, starting with the introduction chapter, which gives an overview of the task of parenting, which I personally thought it's very helpful, right? To just know what is the broad thing that parents should aim for. Quote, he says, "Let me overview a biblical vision for the parenting task. The parenting task is multifaceted. It involves being a kind authority." I really like that, a kind authority. "Shepherding your children to understand themselves in God's world and keeping the gospel in clear view. And then on the word authority, he goes on and explains authority. You must not be embarrassed to be authorities for your children. You exercise authority as God's agent. You may not direct your children for your own agenda or convenience. You must direct your children on God's behalf for their good. And then on the word shepherding, which is our task, it says, if authority best describes the parent's relationship to the child, the best description of the activity of the parent to the child is shepherding. You must shepherd his thoughts, helping him to learn discernment and wisdom. From where also came the book Shepherding a Child's Heart, the title, right? Chapter 1 then talks about how to get to the heart, right? He says, a change of behavior that does not stem from a change in heart is not commendable, it is condemnable. So every change that happens in a child's life must come out of the heart, and so the heart must be addressed. Chapter 2 then speaks about your child's development, and that there are these shaping influences in your child's life. I'm reading quote. Shaping influences are those events and circumstances in a child's development years that prove to be catalysts for making him the person he is. But, and this is a big but, the shaping is not automatic. The way he responds to these circumstances determine the effect they have upon him. And then he's got a very helpful chart there. He says there's a child in the middle, and all these things are shaping influences. They are not determinative influences. The shaping is not automatic. It's a shaping influence. It can have a positive or a negative effect on him. Structure of family life, the family values, the family roles, family response to failure, family history, family conflict resolution. And each time when these things happen, it has the potential to shape this child into the person who he or she is. Now, chapter 3 deals with your child's development, a Godward orientation, and it basically answers this question. What determines a child's response toward these shaping influences? We said these influences, they're not automatically shaping the child needs to respond. So what determines this response? Well, it determines the child's Godward orientation. The child is either bent to worship God or towards worshipping the things that God made, right? The creatures, the idols. Romans 1 verse 18 to 20, it says we're all worshipping either God or these idols. And so that will determine how your child will respond to these shaping influences, the influences that you try to bring into this child's life, which is important, but it's not automatic. Then chapter 4 deals with your authority. It says you are in charge. In this relationship between the parent and the child, you're in charge. Our culture is confused about authority and doesn't like authority. It doesn't like to be authorities. It doesn't like to be under authorities. But realizing your authority, though, as God representatives brings confidence to act. It brings humility in the task. It removes your anger from you. It benefits your child. That's probably most important of all, right? So it's important to realize you're the authority. Then chapter 5 deals with examining your goals as a parent. Every parent has certain goals, either explicitly or implicitly, and these goals affect the way that you parent your children. Some of the unbiblical goals that parents may have for their children are, one, developing special skills. It's not that it's not important to develop some, math or music skills, but it can't be your ultimate goal. Or psychological adjustment. You just want your child to have a good self-esteem, right? Or you want safe children. Now that's great. I also want safe children, but it can't be it's not my goal in parenting, because that's actually God's task, right? And fourthly, well-behaved children. We just want our children to behave well when people come and visit, right? Or a good education, or control, just listen to me, maybe that's your goal. And once again, it's not bad to have it as a side goal, but it can't be your ultimate goal. And because of these unbiblical goals that we have, we send mixed signals to our children. We tell our children, we want them to be worshippers of God and to love God. But then when they score badly on a test, we become very, very angry. And we actually tell our children, that's the goal that we actually had for you. Okay? So watch out. Your verbal and your non-verbal goals will be communicated, and the child will be confused. What is really important? So chapter 6 then deals with reworking your goals. Let's say what can be truly biblical goals, and how can you change those unbiblical goals to actually be goals that honors God. For example, the developing special skills goal shouldn't be an ultimate goal, but it says this can be done to be good stewards of God, right? For what God has entrusted to us, and to keep the body in health, and perhaps to develop family unity. Okay, so now suddenly you can change that unbiblical goal to say this can be done in a way that actually pleases God if you think about it rightly. Psychological adjustment, my child should just have a good self-esteem. Why don't you just entrust your situation to God and entrust your children to God, and just go out and love your enemies, okay? Even those bullies, right? Don't bully them back. Just love your enemies, okay? Maybe your goal was save children. Let's remember, only God can save, but parents should encourage your children to trust in God. Maybe your goal was well-behaved children. We should remember we shouldn't fear man, but we should love our neighbor in our actions. Maybe good education was your goal. Rather make diligence your goal. Okay, so that transformed the way that you think of your goals. Okay, now chapter 7 deals with methods, where the previous 2 chapters dealt with goals. Chapter 7 deals with discarding unbiblical methods in raising your children. So, and it will give 6 unbiblical methods. First of all, maybe your method is, I just do whatever my parents did to me. I didn't turn out that bad, so, my children will probably not turn out bad either. So you never thought to, critically evaluate, what did your parents do to you? Was it biblical? Was it right or not? Or pop psychology. Maybe that's a method that you're following. You bribe your children, you give them money if they do certain stuff, or you make a deal with them to just get them to do what you want them to do. Or maybe behavior modification is your goal, right? You just want them to act nicely on the outside so they look good in front of others. Or emotionalism is a method. So you play your child's fears and you tell them, oh, you really make me feel bad when you do this or that. Or you shame your child, or emotional privation. You tell your child, don't come near me, right? And you get them to do what you want them to do, but it only works temporarily. Then a 5th unbiblical method of parenting is punitive correction, where you try to punish your child to hurt your child and not to restore your child. And then 6 is erratic eclecticism, basically where there's no consistent method. You just do whatever the latest hot tip tells you to do. Then chapter 8 deals with embracing biblical methods, and specifically focusing on communication and saying it is a two-way thing. So parents shouldn't just tell their children what to do. Sometimes they should ask them questions to come to understand what happened and why it happened, and ask them questions to help those children to investigate their own little hearts, right? But then he gives a tip and says that the why question almost never works. Rather, parents should ask, what were you feeling when you did this and that? Help me understand how hitting your brother helped the situation. In what other way could you have responded? So those are all very good questions to help the child diagnose his own heart and to shepherd the child's heart, right? Then chapter 9, embracing biblical methods, types of communication. And it goes on to say that most parents communicate towards their children. It consists only out of rules, correction, and discipline. But parents should also include the following elements in their communication towards their children: encouragement, correction, rebuke, instruction, warning, teaching, and prayer. Chapter 10, embracing biblical methods, a life of communication. Yes, communication is not just now and then when you talk. You have to have a life of communication. That means parenting is very costly. It costs you your life. It will cost you time, which means you might have to give up some hobbies. It will cost you humility, because you'll have to confess your sin to your children. It will be inconvenient. You have to listen and communicate when your children are ready, and not just when you are ready. That might be late at night, right? But then he goes on to say it's worth the cost. And he gives this very helpful authority versus influence chart, saying at the beginning of your child's life, you have a lot of authority, right? Your child just does what you tell him to do, right? And you can just tell the child and he will listen. But later, when your child gets older, he's not just going to listen to you just because you're his authority. But at the beginning of your child's life, you don't really have influence. It's not like your child is guided by principles and wisdom. He just does what he's told to do. But when your child gets older, when he is guided by his own mind and thinking, then you'll have influence over your child's life if you parent it right. So live for that, right? Realize you won't always have authority. You can't just always tell your child what to do. So live to, over a period of time, be able to influence your child more. And so your child will respect you at that older age of the child. Chapter 11 then deals with embracing biblical methods. So we talked about communication, but then another one is the rod. Okay, very important one to talk about. And he gives a rationale behind the rod. Children are born in sin. The rod can save your soul. And it gives a few verses that says that. And the rod enforces the parent's authority at that young age, right? Now, distortions of the rod where people think wrongly about it. It's not the right to unbridled temper. It's not the right to hit your children whenever you wish. It's not venting of frustration. It's not retribution. It's not associated with vindictive anger. Okay, so that's wrong ideas of the rod. Chapter 12 then, embracing biblical methods and appeal to the conscience. So life of communication, the rod, and appeal to the conscience. Romans 2 verse 12 to 16 says, we all have consciences that either justify our actions or accuse us of our actions. Parents must appeal to their children's consciences so they can come to realize their guilt. And that's what Jesus did with his parables. And then that guilty conscience will give the parent an opportunity to explain the gospel, because they'll see, I have sinned, I'm guilty, I need a savior. And then parents can introduce the good news that Jesus died on the cross. Then chapter 13 is a summary chapter of chapter 1 to 12, where they laid the foundations of biblical child rearing, and it's a transition chapter into part 2. Part 2 all has to deal with shepherding through the stages of childhood. So it deals with the children at each stage of their lives and how a parent can shepherd them in that stage. And let me just say, we have covered the most of the book so far. We are almost done, and we're almost done with this whole book, and we are really making good progress. And please remember to hit the like button if you are finding this helpful. Let's go on. Chapter 14, infancy to childhood. So that the youngest age of that child. What are the training objectives of the parents? It says here, he says that parents need to be very consistent in this time. This is the time that parents lay the foundation. And parents must focus especially on helping their children, one, understand the parent's authority, two, help the children to understand that they must honor their parents, and three, helping the children understand the circle of blessing. What is the circle of blessing? Well, it gets that from Ephesians chapter 6, where it says that when children honor and obey their parents, the Bible says that they will live long and it will go well with them. But the moment they step out of that circle of honoring their parents and obeying them, they lose that blessing of God. Chapter 15, same period of time, infancy to childhood. But what are the training procedures? Okay, what should the parents do in this time? There should be an emphasis. He emphasizes spanking again. Okay, because that's really one thing that the parents does a lot in that period of time. When should the parents spank? Well, when your child is disobedient, when they are dishonoring you. Okay, that's the two basic commands for children. How should they do that? Well, privately. We don't want to shame them. For specific behavior, not general things, I can't comprehend that. Secure the child's acknowledgement. So saying, you realize that what you did was wrong. Yes. Do you realize that daddy or mommy has to give you consequences? Yes. Okay, so secure the child's acknowledgement. That helps. Remind the child of the purpose of the rod. This is not because I'm angry, but this is to help you. Okay. And he gives some more tips on how to do that. And then why? Well, basically because God commanded of parents. And it is a means of correction, not punitive, not to hurt you, but to correct you, to restore you. And then he goes on and he answers some basic questions about how to use it, like what is spanking issues, when is my child old enough, when is a child too old, can I use timeout instead of spanking, what if my child says I didn't hear you, what if we're not at home? So for all of that, I would just say go and read the book. It's very, very helpful, but we can't cover it in this time, okay? Now, chapter 16 deals with then the second part of the child's life, the childhood stage. After infancy to childhood. Training objectives in this time. In these middle years, children will have to face never before seen situations alone. And there are too many situations to make a rule for everything. Thus, parents need to focus on building their children's character so they can make their own decisions based on principles when those situations arrive. Parents should make a diagnostic review about each child every 6 months. They should think through issues like the child's relationship with God, the child's relationship with himself, and the child's relationship with others. So every 6 months, just parents sit together and talk about this concerning every child. Then chapter 17 deals with the same period of time, but training procedures. Parents must seek to address more than just the behavior, but also the heart. It's so easy to just focus on the behavior. They should every time try to trace it back to the child's heart. They should appeal to the child's conscience. They should train the character by helping the child understand who God is as it relates to his or her behavior. And they should try to develop a long-term perspective, trying to improve habits in the long run. Chapter 18 then deals with teenagers. And by the way, this is the second last chapter. We're almost done. Training objectives in this time. Understand teenagers. They change a lot. They start making up their own views, sometimes even questioning their parents, which is not necessarily wrong. And they rebel more. Now that's wrong, but it's not an excuse, but that's typical of this stage. And then Proverbs chapter 1 gives 3 foundations that teens should build on in this time. And parents should really draw their attention, the teens' attention to these principles. Number 1, the teens should fear God. Lay that foundation or teach them to fear God in every situation. Adhere to a parental instruction. Parents, you're still the parents, even though your child, is growing older. And thirdly, teach your child to restrain from wicked ways. Don't go with the wicked. Don't do what they say. And note that child in Proverbs 1 was tempted due to the desire of camaraderie, right? So make your home a place of friendship and belonging so your child doesn't feel the need to go and find it somewhere else. And then the last chapter, chapter 19, teenagers training procedures. Since teenagers are older and think critically through life, your relationships becomes more one of influence than of authority. So remember that authority versus influence chart, okay? Now your child is a bit older, so he's not really going to just listen because mom says so, you must do so. But you'll have a lot of more influence because you had a life of shepherding your child and of building respect in the child's eyes for you. So influence your child, give the child wisdom by which he can make good decisions. Parents must therefore in this time shepherd their children through doubt because they'll have questions, they'll doubt their worldview, they'll be exposed to other worldviews. They must have positive interaction with their children, not just rules the whole time and discipline, but a lot more positive interaction. They must wait for the right time to address an issue. When the children are younger, you address the issue as quick as possible after it happened. But when they are older, you can wait for the right time. Be sensitive to the situation. They are older. Try to develop more of an adult-to-adult relationship with their children. And focus on broad themes rather than individual actions, right? Broad themes like bad habits forming and tell them if you continue doing this, this will be the result, rather than on small nitty-gritty stuff. Okay? Parents should also allow room for disagreement. Your children are getting older. It's not a failure if they disagree on some issues. And finally, they should entrust their children to God. Now that was the biggest portion, the content. Now let's just quickly enter the last portion where we'll offer a humble critique and we'll also say the good and the bad. So here's what we think. The good, this book is very practical. It's easy to read. It's based on biblical teaching and it's very helpful for parenting. Some of the bad areas where they could have improved on, this book begins very idealistically. It's like shepherding the child's heart, focusing on the heart. We are all worshippers. It's very abstract, where most people reading this book are very more practical. I just need to deal with this situation. My child isn't listening. Secondly, it could have exposed the scripture a little bit more. So it is based on biblical teaching, and I think I agree with most of what he says here. But sometimes it's hard to know, is this his view or is this what God says? So I think it would have been more helpful if he maybe taken Ephesians 6 or some Proverbs and expounded it a little bit more, so we could be sure that this is actually God's word and this is how it applies. Number 3, it could have began with the benefits of biblical parenting, something like taking a verse in Proverbs that says, if you train up your child rightly, when he grows older, he will give you rest. There's a verse like that, for example. So parents would say, be very motivated to actually read this book and to be encouraged to take their parenting seriously and to learn from its wisdom. He does mention the benefit of parenting in between. It's scattered in between, but I think it would have been very helpful and motivating if he would have started like that. And then fourthly, some topics occur at 2 different places. For example, the topic on the rod, we've seen it. It occurs in one chapter, he deals with it a whole chapter long, and then another chapter, whole chapter long. So some places it's not so systematic and structured, and I really think just the writing style would have really made a bigger impact. Okay, so that's what we think, but we would be delighted to hear what do you think about this book. Please give your humble critique as well. Also tell us what you found helpful or not so helpful, or biblical, not so biblical. Please tell us, even if you've just listened to this presentation, just give us your feedback, please. That would be highly appreciated. We recommend this book for everyone who's a parent, everyone who's becoming a parent, everyone who knows a parent, and everyone who knows someone who is becoming a parent. And we recommend this for everyone. It's a really helpful book. I read this book long before I became a parent, and it shaped my Christian faith. It was very, very helpful. And with that, we are saying thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe.